exactly. I just want to know where the courage and the bravery came from, because I was like, good for you. Oh my gosh, I don't know if people think that they have it in them to do something like that, if the situation would allow them or needs to be done that way. So where did that come within you?
You know, Jessica, I think we all get to a point where, you know, you can only take so much.
Right.
And with the abuse starting with me at the age of 5, and by then I think I was 25, 26, and I had vowed that I would never allow anyone to do to my daughters what had been done to me.
Right.
And my ex-husband had crossed that line. And you know, you can only push a person so far until they just, you never, you know, you push them to that boiling point and they react. And I'm like a mother bear protecting her cubs. And when, you know, you're this big man and you decide that you're going to take your frustrations, your anger, because of what's going on in your life out on a defenseless child,
right,
you know, that can't protect herself, that's my job. So it was the courage of it. It was almost as if I had been protecting myself, as if, you know, I saw myself in my daughter's shoes. You know, here she is, this defenseless child, and this adult who has no business reacting this way toward her. So I think it was probably one of those moments where you just flash back and you just like, wait a minute, you know. And yeah, I did.
That's great that you were thinking that maybe you were just protecting yourself, because nobody had protected you when you were her age, and here you are and you're saying, okay, that's kind of me, and I, as an adult, need to protect.
Right, exactly. And I mean, I knew that I wouldn't harm him, you know, I knew that I didn't have it in me to shoot him. But
you just want to put the fear of God in him.
Exactly, yeah, because let you know that it's not going to be tolerated.
Right. But I think, but what made you decide to do that as opposed to just taking your kids and leaving?
Because at that moment, I mean, I couldn't just pack up and go.
Right.
We just moved back to the States. I wasn't in any position to just pack up and go. And I just wasn't ready. That wasn't the time. That wasn't the time. I had a plan, and I wanted to stick to it. And my plan was to stay there until the amount of time that I said until I was going to leave, and that was my plan, and I was going to stick to it. So it
was just an obstacle you needed to take care of.
Exactly.
Exactly. I'll just take care of it and stick with my plan.
Right,
if that's what needs to be done. That's what needs to be done. Dang it. So this next part that we're going to touch on is very difficult, I'm sure, for you. So I'll try to be as sensitive as possible. There was a moment when I think you were about 14 or 15, I don't know the exact age, when you were gang raped. And then later, I don't know, I'm thinking I thought it was like maybe 10 years later, but I'm not really sure. When you go home for Thanksgiving, and Brandy brings one of those guys home, your sister brings one of those guys home. Did she know it was one of those guys? Because from the way it seemed in the book, she kind of knew it was one, but I wasn't clear if she knew it was one and she was doing this to torture you, or exactly what the situation was. Because if she knew it was one of those, I would be stunned. But I didn't know exactly if she kind of just thought and was throwing it in your face, what that situation was when she brought him home.
Okay, first of all, I was 18.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, when I was getting raped. Yeah, she knew. The way the situation was is that, I mean, the way I did, when I talk about it in the book, the way I describe her behavior, and the relationship between my sister and I have always been on, you know, different ends of the, I mean, she was my mother's favorite, you know, and
her dad's too.
Oh, definitely.
Yes.
Yeah. So it was that she knew. She knew exactly who he was. She knew exactly what she was doing. I mean, there's always been this hatred between my sister and I. I mean, ever since she was...
but that goes beyond hatred. Oh, okay. Go ahead, sorry.
Well, you know, some people go pretty low. Some people are very vindictive, and that's you know, that's my sister. That was her way of rubbing it in my face.
But I admire you because you tried to stick it out. You tried to deal with it, but then it just got to be too much and you wanted to leave. But I mean, I can't even imagine what I would do in a situation like that if somebody purposely did something that evil to me. I don't know if I could stay a calm, rational person like you did without going off
sick.
on Brandy.
I actually became sick. All I remember is being in the bathroom and coming back and unable to speak, and so just overtaken with fear that it was fleet. I had to get the hell out of there, and that's exactly what I did.
Well, because it brought you back to that.
Oh, definitely, definitely. To a place where I hadn't been in years, you know.
And to be confronted like that with it by someone you know.
Right. Well, not that I ever trusted her anyway, but you wouldn't think that, I wouldn't think that, if I had to come up with the worst scenario going back home for that holiday, it wouldn't have been that anymore. No.
So tell me now, to this day, we got to jump ahead because, God, time went by fast, but tell me now what you are doing to help other people and help yourself to overcome all of this, what's happened to you in your life. By starting this must-read book that everyone needs to read, for one, which took so much courage in itself to write. But besides putting it on paper, what do you do to help yourself or your children or whomever you think may be affected by reading it or by just being around you or just your energy?
I mean, I get tons of letters from women, and I work at a women's fitness facility, and they've all read the book, and I can't tell you the stories that they've shared with me, or how it's affected their lives, or how they've passed it on to someone who can relate. And, and I've had people like you who says, "Oh my gosh, you know, I've always underappreciated my parents. You know, when I was done reading it, I had to call my mother." I get a lot of different, you know, stories, and it makes me feel good, because when my intentions were never to write the book. As a little girl, I never said, "Oh, I want to write a book." It was through therapy, where I had to keep a journal, and at the end of a year and a half of extensive therapy, and my therapist says, "You know, you should write a book. You would help a lot of people." And I thought, no, I can't do that. And he says, "Yeah, you know, you can." So it was my goal with this was, okay, if I get one letter from one woman saying, "Thank you, help me," you know, I'm okay with that. But what I get now, it's like, whoa, it's so overwhelming.
Well, thank you for joining me. We're going to have to do a follow-up show, because there's like so many things that I didn't get to that I wanted to get to. And thanks so much for joining us today. You'll have to tune in for another show with Rachel. It was very informative for me, and I know everyone's going to get something out of it. And we all learn from other people, and this is one of those great stories that we'll all be affected by. Thanks for joining us. Have a good day. That went by so stinking fast.